All right, so let's get into it. What causes stress and what can you do to get your mind right? Okay. I want to jump right into this topic because it's a very important topic. Depending on when you're watching this, I'm recording this during Stress Awareness Month, which I just thought was very important to kind of talk about this because one thing that impacts your mind is stress, and it really impacts your mind, body, and your spirit. So let's jump into it. Before I do that, let me take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Joe Bullock, and I am your life coach. I'm here to help you to reach your goals as it pertains to your life and as it pertains to your relationships. And if you know me, there's 5 aspects of relationships that I focus in on. But right now, we're focusing on one of those aspects, which is yourself. And we're going to focus on your mind. So let's talk about the different things that impacts stress in your life. One of the most common things that stress people out is their work. Listen, coming from a place where I have had the privilege to be in various leadership positions within my profession, I can tell you that my job in the past, my job just period, has been the greatest source of stress in my life. At different times, it's been different things. And usually, when I know when I have to kind of take a step back or take a break or whatever it is I need to do to address that stress, and even just setting certain boundaries on a daily and taking certain breaks. So, number one is your work. And you get to think about why that is, because sometimes it could be you failing to promote self efficacy. What is that? That is you not telling your boss, your manager, your colleagues what you need to perform your job. You're allowing. Listen, I may just be talking about what I've allowed myself, right? And I know I've been there. We allow sometimes to people to put unrealistic expectations on us, impose unrealistic deadlines on us, and then we end up back in a corner trying to do something in a fraction of the time that is actually required to get done. And so that's a very, very dangerous place to be, and that's not what you want to do. So before you make any commitments to anybody, give any deadlines or commit to any deadlines, you need to take some time, whether you have a project manager or whatever that case may be, to get with that person and write out the detailed schedule with all concerned parties to give their buy-in, to make sure that before you commit and say, yes, I can do this by X deadline, that is actually achievable. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you get to advocate for yourself. I'm not even leaving it there because I got to go to another example. I know somebody that I work with and with my investor. Sometimes if I send something and I ask for it in a time less than the times allocated, this person will immediately come back and set the record straight and say, hey, I have X amount of time to do this review. And so in that moment, I get annoyed most of the time. However, I can do nothing but to respect that, because what is happening in that moment is she's saying, you're not going to put an undue burden and pressure on me to do my job and cause me stress in my life because y'all are behind schedule. Somebody, I don't know what the case is. She's like, you're going to give me enough time to perform my job. And that's really important, because when we don't advocate for ourselves in that way, it can lead to false performance issues. It can lead to a perception that you're not doing a good job, or that you're otherwise not, you know what I'm saying? You don't get the recognition that's due, because you could make a commitment to do something, and then the time you committed to do it is way above the schedule that is supposed to be done, but you still can get a lot of negative press or a negative look on it if you promised it within 100 days and it took you 120, even if the timeline that really takes is 200. So just be mindful of that. So work stress. So another thing that causes, and sometimes you may have to change your job. You may need to change positions. Maybe sometimes the skills that you have don't align with the position that you're working. That can cause a clash there. The second thing is relationships. Relationships, if you're in a relationship, it can be stressful. It can cause stress. And not every relationship is stressful. But what I do know is The overwhelming majority of relationships are dealing with a lack of communication, which really is derived from a lack of skills. And also, a lot of people are dealing with some level of childhood trauma. And oftentimes, these things starts to surface in relationships, especially when it comes to people's emotional needs, it comes to conflict, and you just start bucking up against your partner. And if both of you aren't equipped with the communication skills, the ability to listen, the ability to validate, the ability to respond in an appropriate way, and if both of you haven't taken some time to really heal your childhood traumas and understand your triggers, then it can create friction in this relationship. And you may just feel, it could be a myriad of things that you feel a negative way, either about the relationship or about what you're not getting from the relationship, that can cause you stress. And it can literally keep you up at night. So got to be mindful of that. I have so many things on this list. I'm trying to get to it. I could have probably made each one of these things as I'm thinking about it as its own video. So the next thing I have here is, with the work and relationship, what I find is that oftentimes that stress is a result of that lack of self-efficacy that I talked about, and also a lack of boundaries. Because a lot of times, whether you're talking about in a work or in your relationships, we don't have boundaries. And you can have boundaries in terms of personal boundaries as well as relationship boundaries. Personal boundaries is going to be, how much are you on your phone? Let's just be honest. Right now, is at the time of this recording, right now, I know so many people spend so much time on their phone and spend more time than they want and even think. And so that could be distracting you from your job, not having boundaries about checking your phone during work hours. Even when do you take calls, even from people within your organization? Is there a set time? Are you taking calls anytime somebody call you? You're just stopping what you're doing and interrupting, and not having a proper boundary so you can have that priority focus time, which is a time that you set aside that you can focus on the most important tasks that you need to do to maximize your production within your workday. I know I'm dropping a lot of knowledge and I don't mean to. I'm just giving you as it's coming to me. I do have notes here, but I hope this all makes sense to you. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times the stress we have is self-imposed because we're not really representing ourselves and setting ourselves up for success. And I know I always admire my sister. She is like the queen called Queen Bee, Queen of Boundaries. She would quickly send you to voicemail. She will quickly, say, hey, I got to get back with you later, because she knows when she's focusing on a specific task, she dare not be interrupted with something that can wait till later. Because every time we're interrupted, it takes what, 10, 15 minutes to get back on track from where you were. So it really, now the lack of boundaries become a production killer. It really just causes your productivity to take a plummet. Now let's pivot to boundaries and relationships. This could be how do you expect someone to talk to you, how you expect someone to treat you. And let me tell you, boundaries can be difficult. It's important to set them, but it's even more important, just as important, if not more so, to enforce them. So about how somebody talk to you, about how somebody engage with you, what they do, what they don't do, how they interact with other people. And you get to express that. And in your relationship, your partner gets to hear you out and try to come to an understanding about that thing. Now, this becomes very difficult if you have a partner who doesn't respect boundaries, who disregards or totally just disagrees with you, or perhaps even have a source of childhood trauma around that. It can come very sticky. If you're dating and you realize that you have a partner that is adverse to boundaries and respecting boundaries, you need to run like your life depends on it, because it does. If you see somebody violating your boundaries in a dating relationship, it's not going to change if you marry them. So if you are married, then you get to, I'm not a big advocate necessarily of counseling, although some counseling can be helpful. If you do seek counseling, which I don't necessarily recommend that be your first resort, you really need to try to work it out between you and your partner. First, you should try to understand them, their perspective, validate them and their perspective, and then at a later date, hopefully they'll be able to listen and understand your perspective. If that goes on and you guys are not able to come to some resolution, I then would say a professional counselor who specializes. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Is seeking counsel from a general counselor, especially nowadays with so many counselors are booked and busy. I know because I have my own counselor and I've had a counselor for a while. So, and it took me a while to find even my first counselor, right? So sometimes it takes some time. And so when it comes to your marriage and particularly a relationship, you want to make sure you have a counselor who has a specialized training in a niche, especially for my married people, as it pertains to relationship. And you just not choosing a generalist who talks and hear and listen to everybody, and they don't have a process or a formula and certain principles and processes to help you to get through whatever you're going through. Like you just don't want somebody just to, like I say, throwing spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, or just comment, oh, what problem you have this week. No, you want somebody that's a solution-based counselor that specializes in what you need to help you guys learn how to get those boundaries in place. Okay, you guys, let's keep going. Also put lack of focus, which I feel like I kind of covered that with the distractions. And distractions show up as lack of boundaries. Distractions are coming to your life because of lack of boundaries. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Distractions show up in your workday, in your relationships, in your life because of lack of boundaries. I need to do a whole video on boundaries, but not in this moment. Okay. So let's keep going. So, and that leads to a lack of focus. And sometimes even a lack of clarity can lead to lack of focus, because if you're not clear on your life calling, if you're not clear on the vision that God has on your life and the people that you're called to serve, then you may wobble and be all over the place and not feel like you're not launched in a way that you can get some traction. Now, another thing I want to say is that common things that lead to stress in your life is fear. Did you know, and I've said this a time or 3 or more, that fear is the number 1 emotion that is present in a mental war? Yes. And fear is a real thing. Many of us experience it. And a lot of times it's us, as one of my coaches say from E2M, Eager to Motivate, she always says that fear is entertaining the wrong what if, my God in Zion. Fear is entertaining the wrong what if. You're thinking, what if this does not work? What if I lose whatever? I don't get the promotion. What if something happened with my job? What if I don't get the house? What if I can't afford my mortgage? What if it's like, what if this relationship don't work out? We're focusing on the wrong what if. And even if we focus on a what if that is not desirable, we don't get to stop there. We keep going, because even if there's a what if that's not desirable for you, it may be your will, but not the will of God. And so you get to say, what if this situation doesn't work out? Then I know that the God I serve says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. So what if this situation doesn't work? God is going to do this or bigger. God is going to bless me with this or bigger. His word says in Ephesians 3:20, that God is going to bless you above and beyond what you could ever think or imagine, according to the powers that work within us. And so you get to know that God is either going to do whatever in your life or better. And so we get to, even when you, like I said, there's a what if that may not be favorable, you still know that you're in a season that you cannot lose, that you're going to season from good to great. And so all things will work out. Okay, a couple more things I have on here. Actually, 2 more things I have about common stressors that you got to be aware of, so you can get your mind right and get out of a place of stress and stagnation to really a place of this thriving and focus, is indecision. And what I know for sure is that indecision a lot of times is driven by fear, because there's a fear of, if I make the wrong decision, if I do this, what's going to happen? What if I do that? What's going to happen? And a lot of times what that indecision is a lack of faith. It's like thinking that you are afraid to make a mistake. But let me tell you two things that's really just coming to my mind right now. I dated this guy in college many years ago. I guess 20 years ago now. My God, in Zion. And one thing he said, I don't never worry about making a wrong decision. Every decision I make, I'm making the right decision. And I love that. And maybe it can't be a totality all everywhere all the time, all at once. But I love the idea that he doesn't allow the fear of making the wrong decision to paralyze him, but he does his best to say, I'm going to trust myself enough to make a decision, and I'm going to put all my force and energy as much as possible to make that the right decision. And he wasn't necessarily a believer, but I will say, as a believer, we even have better than that, because not only can we seek God through prayer, through fasting, for our direction, we also, once he gives that confirmation, we get to follow that. And sometimes that's the hard part, because God may give you confirmation about what's going to happen, or give you some foresight or insight about what's going to happen, and you may not like it. And so you may be, as I like to say, bucking up against the will of God. Maybe it's just me, but I know I've experienced that a time or two. And so the thing is, really, it's not so, I guess it is indecision, because what's happening is you want to go your way and you feel God is pulling you in a different way. And so then that's when the clash happens. But you got to then pray and ask God to help you to have that level of obedience, and to let your will go, and to submit to his will, to help you to surrender what you want for what he wants. Because listen, let me just say, who know better than God, though? Asking for myself. Okay. I'm just me and you here. Oh my God, I forgot to mention, if you haven't already, if you're still watching this video, oh my God, you got to subscribe. Like, you got to subscribe. Subscribe to this channel. I'm getting back into the flow of on YouTube and posting this on various channels. And I would love for you to be part of my community. I'm committed to doing a video a week. I feel like this year I posted, I don't know, maybe 5 videos so far. I think I started like in late February. So my goal is to do at least 1 video a week. And so I will love for you to gather here. As you see, I'm really into all things personal development from a Christian perspective. And I generally work with women of faith who are leaders, coaches, authors, and really just women who want to transform their lives for the better. So if that's you, girlfriend, you are in the right place. I'm honored to say that I've been in the life coaching space, in transformational space, for over 15 years. Yes, since 2006. So, oh my God, that's almost 20 years. So for a very long time, and I'm grateful. So anyway, subscribe and let's continue this conversation. So I got one more tip that I didn't mention, which is stagnation. It's not even so much a tip as I'm bringing awareness, right? This is stress awareness mind. So I'm making you aware of things that may be happening in your life, and you may feel a way. And a lot of times we don't associate these things with stress, but it's stress. Excuse me. And I'm glad I'm doing this, because I was even thinking for myself, I've had dealing with some of the stuff. And I was like, I didn't really think of it as stress, because it's not a word that we really use fluid in our vocabulary. I think people try to shun stress because it has such a negative connotation, but we need to recognize when we are dealing with stress so we can know how to pivot. Okay. So stagnation. If we have experienced this, if you're experiencing stagnation in your life, in your relationship, in your business, it can cause you to feel away. It can cause stress. It may even cause some level of frustration or depression. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, and I don't play one on YouTube. But what I do is I am an educator, and I like to educate myself and understand things. And so, and what I do understand is, if we feel like we're not fulfilling our life calling and purpose, or we're not moving forward in life, it can cause a level of sadness, and prolonged sadness can lead to depression. And so we get to take a look at that. And it also can just cause stress, because now we're trying to, again, thinking, how can I work this out so I'm not, how can I pursue my vision, my goal, my passion? And so we start sometimes, if you tend to be an A type, or you tend to be a visionary, or just a passionate person or ambitious person, you may tend to focus a lot of time and energy thinking about how to work that out. And so what I want to encourage you to combat all of this One, I'm going to tell you that depending on when you're watching this, you need to join us at the Be Transform live experience. First of all, that's going to be amazing. And this is our first year hosting it. And it's at the end of April, depending on, again, when you're watching this recording. It may pass because I know this video will last forever. But don't fret. Just look me up. Click a link below. I'm sure whether it's an academy or some path I have to help support you, or even a free resource I have below to support you on your journey to really just get what you need to get. So depending, you may can join a clarity call, or even just like I said, grab a free resource to help you, the clarity guide to help you kind of just clear the air. Also, I have the Goal Achieve workbook that helps you to kind of map out your life. So my takeaway here, or your takeaway that I want to tell you to help you to reduce the stress is one, I'm gonna tell you two things. One, I want you to take some time to plan out your day and your priorities. One thing I find very effective when I, at the top of my morning, say, what is my three priorities for my work and what are my three priorities for my business? And it's just amazing how much you're able to do when you set that vision, that clear vision in the beginning of your day. The second thing that I want to encourage you to do um, is going to be figure out what areas of your life are you dealing with the stress, and how can you evoke more self-efficacy to make sure you're being fair to yourself. If your job allows you 5 days to perform a review, when somebody demands it in a day or two, you get to notify them you will do your best, but you have 5 days to review it and you'll get it to them within the 5 days. And then when you deliver it on the third day, you look like a superstar. That's what I will tell you. That's what I would tell you. But I also would tell you, if at all, get into the room to this event that's happening in Washington, D.C. You won't regret it. So until next time, that's my time. Peace and blessings. Have a great day. Subscribe to this channel.